Hello and welcome along to Mondo Chelloveck Movies. My name is John, and as you can see, I've selected 10 movies that I would love to see on 4K from 88 Films. Now, as you know, there's movies up there, The Hell of the Living Dead, that is now starting to be brought into life in 4K. And I had a look through some of these movies and I thought, you know what it is, if they're going to go back to their back catalogue, which it looks like they're going to, because I've got a few more titles coming out from over here, I thought, what would be 10 movies that I would love to see on 4K? Now, I'm not going to say that they've got the rights to all these. I'm not going to say that they're going to put these out. But if I could be a controller of 88 Films, I would definitely have picked these ones to go for the 4K upgrade. Now, some of the picture quality is on here a little bit like worse for wear, to say the least. Other ones look absolutely amazing. So just for a bit of fun, I went back to the back catalogue and I thought I'd pick 10 movies out that I personally would love to see and double dip again on 4K from 88. At number 10 is 1980's Alien 2. Yes, the sequel to Alien, believe it or not. Now, this came out in obviously 6 years before Aliens came out. And it does say on the back here, Alien 2 might well be the film that David Fincher wished he had made. Now, I remember that the print on this looked really spectacular. It doesn't say anything about these being 4K or 2K remasters on most of them. So you've got to have the mindset on some of these movies that they're so bad they're good. And they really are. Now, I think that sometimes you get a movie that's a great movie like Alien and Aliens are absolutely classics. But something like this, you've got to take this kind of on board, that these are movies that you could kind of enjoy. You could kind of laugh at them because they're so preposterous in their premise to think, wow, you've actually made a sequel to something that you shouldn't have made a sequel to, but they didn't really care, actually. They just make a sequel to anything. And that's why it ended up with loads of zombie flesh eaters 3, 4 and 5, and they didn't follow on from each other. So it was a common trope back in the day. Also, if any of these movies are out of print, which I think some of them are, you may get a second chance to actually own these movies again. So if you ever wondered what Alien would have been like if it actually got down to Earth, well, watch this movie and you'll know. So at number 10, that's Alien 2. At number 9 is 1984's Blast Fighter. Now, if you think this looks like Rambo, then you'd be right, because this is a Rambo ripoff. As most of these movies are, they're a kind of ripoff of one genre or another. This movie is so much fun. It's really one of those movies where you've got to see it to believe it, for the action in it that's so cheesy. I love cheesy action films from the 80s, as you know. And this one here doesn't fail to live up to its title. It does say on here that Quentin Tarantino maintains that Blast Fighter is the best movie that legendary Lamberto Bava, who made Demons, has ever made. Can you believe that one? Also, another thing to mention, these covers. I mean, they're great covers, but they really don't represent the movie at all. If you're looking for that scene in the movie, you will never see it. But that's what I like about some of these movies. You would see these on the video shelves and you think, oh, that's got to be an amazing Rambo type movie. And you watch it and you think, wow, that's nowhere near as good as Rambo. But that's not the point of this film. The point of this film is to kind of like use the Rambo trope and go along with it in a kind of really weird, kitschy Italian way, with quite a lot of blood and guts in it as well. So at number 9, that's Blast Fighter. At number 8 is 1986's Hands of Steel. This is directed by Sergio Martino, so you know it's going to be a good action movie. Well, when I say good, it is kind of unbelievably bad in a good way. This is very reminiscent of Terminator movies and also RoboCop in a fashion. He is 70% android and 30% human. And the year is 1997, imagine that. The Guardian of the Future is much more than a human being. Now this is utterly ridiculous. I mean, the effects on here, if you think you're going to see effects like that with somebody's with an arm and all the robotic stuff inside, well, think again. But this movie is such a fun movie because it's so bad. And Sergio Martino has this great way of making movies that are like low-budget action movies that are very watchable. It's funny, if you saw this at the time it came out, you would probably think it was a load of rubbish and you wouldn't go back to it. But I think on reflection, some of these movies deserve that extra, like, watch again. And also, I think if you go in with your mindset of it's so bad it's good and you're going to enjoy it for the romp it is. So at number 8, that's Hands of Steel. At number 7 is 1971's The Eye of the Hurricane. Now it does say in the back here, this is from a new 4K transfer. And this is one of the first ones when I saw it, I thought, this does look sensational. You would think you were watching a 4K actually. So this could be one that they could easily put on 4K. And this is your sort of typical giallo, but it's got a lot of twists and turns in it, more than you would expect, to the point you're thinking, wow, what can they bring out next? I was really invested in this movie. It's one of those ones where you put it on and you think, the giallos are always going to be ones, are they going to interest you? Are they going to fall flat? They're not going to deliver what you want a giallo to deliver. And this one did, in buckets and spades. And that's another thing about the line of the Italian collection. There's some movies in there that you never thought any existed, and when you watch them, you think, wow, I really do like this movie. And I'm glad that they've put it into this collection. Yes, this looks amazing, and it's got plenty of giallo tropes in it, and I highly recommend it. And plus, with it being a 4K transfer, this one would look absolutely sensational in 4K. So at number 7, that's The Eye of the Hurricane. And number 6 is 1975's Night Train Murders. Now, this is a particularly nasty movie. It was spine number 1, and when it first came out, I thought there's no way they're going to bring this out uncut, and they did. So that made me think, well, maybe there's some great stuff coming out, which they have. I've got most of these movies are uncut here, and there's some really surprising titles in it. So this movie is basically Last House on the Left on a train. So if you think of that, you're halfway there. And for me, this movie it's really brutal in places. In fact, I can't believe how brutal it is in some scenes. But I really enjoy this movie. The thing I like about these movies is, and I've said this before, is the fact that you get some like the people who are causing this mayhem, the gangs in it. And sometimes I like the gangs because I can't believe sometimes how bad the people are, and nasty these people are, and what they do. So there's two guys, and there's also a girl who gets involved with this gang. And she joins in, which I can't even believe happened. But anyway, I think this is a thoroughly entertaining movie. It is very nasty, and the picture quality on here is brilliant, and it looks spectacular. I think you could make a really good 4K of this movie. So it seems like they're releasing the nastier titles at the minute. So for my money, I think this might be one of the ones that would definitely come out. So at number 6, that's The Night Train Murders. At number 5 is 1971's Short Night of Glass Dolls. That's a brilliant title. I love this movie. I've talked about this movie quite a few times. And what I'm seeing in the back of here, it says brand new high definition restoration from the original camera negatives. So if they can go back to this negatives, if they've still got access to them, they can pull off some great looking 4K transfers from these movies. Now this movie has got a really amazing premise in it. And there's no spoilers to say this, but this guy here, it's played by Sean Sorrell as well. I hope I'm saying that correctly. He is literally killed at the start, and what happens is they find him in a bush, so they take him to the morgue, and obviously going to have an autopsy on him, but he's still alive in his mind. He can feel what's happening to him, and he's trying to work out while he's in the morgue and getting operated on. He's trying to work out what happened to him and why he's actually in this plight, and that's the movie. Now, I've never seen a movie like it. And the fact is that the person really is dead for the full movie. Don't want to give any spoilers away, because obviously there is a point of it. It's not just this person's dead on a table, but it's the whole sort of mystery behind the fact of him being found. Everyone said he's dead, and then I think they seem to think that he's not dead as well. So, and then they try to find out why he's kind of not dead, but he's dead. And he's trying to think of that again, but he can't communicate because he's literally just talking in his head, and you can hear what he's narrating about it. So yeah, really good giallo to a certain extent, but very, very different to the movies that are mainly in here. That's one of the things I thought about this movie. I thought, wow, I've never seen a movie like it. Highly recommended. So brilliant movie, brilliant premise. So at number 5, that's Short Night of Glass Dolls. And coming in at number 4 is 1983's 2019 After the Fall of New York. This is another one of those post-apocalyptic movies like Mad Max. Obviously Mad Max came out, and then there was a million rip-offs in the Italian market. And this is one of the best ones, actually, directed by Sergio Martino. It also stars the same guy out with Blast Fighter, and obviously he doesn't even look like that in these movies. It's a great movie. It's actually got some half-decent special effects on. So the story of this movie is there's only one fertile female left in the world, and this guy here has to find her and bring her back to, wherever, and obviously continue the human race. Now, that's crazy, and it's fun because he goes. It's a bit like he goes into these gangs. He always finds a gang, and he's got to go here and there. And he's into all sorts of like chaos happens with these different groups that are trying to stop him, trying to kill him. So it's one of those movies. It's so funny. It's one of the best ones when you talk about these sort of Mad Max rip-offs. This is one of the highest ones that's held in high regards, and I was so glad to see this coming to the Italian collection because it's one of the ones that I'd heard about but never seen. I've seen quite a few of these ones. For me, Bronx Warriors example. All of these need to come out. Actually, Bronx Warriors would be an amazing one to have in the Italian collection. That would be one of the ones I would really love. So it's one of those movies that's so bad, it's so like stupid, but it's so watchable. And you watch it and you think, am I really watching what I'm watching? So at number 4, that's 2019, After the Fall of New York. At number 3 is 1977's Hitchhike, starring Franco Nero and the amazing David Hess from House on the Edge of the Park and Last House on the Left. And what you've got a couple here who are driving around and they pick up a hitchhiker. And the hitchhiker is David Hess. How do you think that went? I think they were in a sort of like a camper van. And it's basically, that's the movie. They're in this camper van. But it's not as black and white as David Hess sort of like holds him hostage and all that, although that's part of the movie. But another part of the movie is like obviously trying to get David Hess back for what he's doing. Now this movie here, when I put it on, I've seen this movie before and I really enjoyed it, but it's always looked a bit grotty. But the picture quality in here was absolutely sensational. That makes me think. It doesn't say anything about what it's mastered of. But that makes me think that this one, if they can still get their hands on it, would look sensational in 4K. And with the David Hess coming in House on the Edge of the Park, not the ledge of the park, the edge of the park.
Where's me ladders?
And obviously a big drawing part of this movie is the amazing David Hess as this psycho hitchhiker. So at number 3, that's Hitchhike. At number 2 is 1984's Rats, Night of Terror. This movie is crazy. It's one of those ones it's directed by Bruno Mattei, who directed Zombie Creeping Flesh, which has just come out there. So you know what you're in for. And if you thought Zombie Creeping Flesh was mad, you want to see this movie. So this is another post-apocalyptic rip-off. The premise of this movie is that the Earth is taken over by rats, hordes of rats, and the humans have to fight against the rats. The special effects for the rats is absolutely crazy. You would not. I mean, I can tell you how they do it, but you've got to see it to believe it when you see the hordes of rats coming down towards the people. Just take a look at it. If you have this film or you know this film, you know the effect they use is just ridiculous, but it actually looks quite good as well, in a fashion. This movie has an ending which rivals Nightmare City. Now, Nightmare City, actually, there's a girl there who is in Demons, as you can see there. You know, the lady there from Demons, one of the ones who turns into a demon. But this movie looks, I had this on American Blu-ray, but I got rid of it because I didn't want to double dip. I had this one in the collection. This one, it shouldn't look good, but it looks sensational. Now, it doesn't say anything about the original camera negatives, but I've got to say, if they can remaster, if they can get the negatives used for this movie will look absolutely, be one of the best 4Ks you'll ever seen of a movie that's utter trash. The ending, honestly, the ending is just, you just think, oh my god, they didn't go there, did they? But they did. So highly recommended for stupidity and absolutely, utterly preposterous storyline that you have to see it to believe it, and one of the best, worst endings you'll ever see. At number 2, that's Rats, Night of Terror. So at number 1 in my list for movies that I hope that 88 Films put out in 4K in the future is 1979's Beyond the Darkness. I love this movie. What I'm reading on the back of this movie is it was restored in 2K from the original 16mm negatives. Now this movie doesn't look that great. It looks better than the one I previously had from the US, but it's one that I'm really hoping that it comes out in 4K. But I really don't think it will, because I don't think that they're going to get that much of an uptick on it. I would love them to do it. It would be my sort of dream movie that they could put out in this range, directed by Joe D'Amato, focusing on a psycho-style story of a young loner under the authority of a besotted but bloodthirsty matriarch Yeah, she's strange. The woman who, and the way she eats stuff, she eats all this stuff, and she's like, it's falling out of her mouth. That's it just reminded me of that. Wow. Who enjoys bouts of human taxidermy, bodily mutilation, and cannibalism. This crimson-ridded splatter caper might just be Joe D'Amato's crowning achievement. Wow. This it's just such an entertaining movie for me. Yes, it's quite brutal in scenes, and it's one of the ones that I always heard about and I always wanted to see. And it lived up to its sort of reputation for me. The only sad thing about it is when I'm looking at it, I really don't think they've got the elements to make this into a 4K. I would love them to do it. But this movie is highly recommended if you just think of movies you would like to see in this line. I recommend all of these. And yes, some of them are so bad they're good. Some of them are really nasty. This one's quite nasty, but I find them all really entertaining. Now, some people might think, oh, they're never going to win any Oscars, but to me, that's not what it's about. Not what I personally think about movies is like some movies that are the best movies ever made might not be the best movies that you would ever want to watch. So there you go. So that's my 10 movies that I would hope, fingers crossed, I would hope that with 88 starting to go into 4K and starting to bring out these titles and put them into this 4K upgrade, I would love to see out. So thanks for watching. You take care, and I'll see you on the next video. Cheers.